Hi everyone, it's Suzanne the Beauty Shaman, and I'm here again with Ben FUCHS of Truth Treatments Skincare to talk about skincare and some subjects related to that I think you all will find super interesting. And our first talk we're going to do is how to choose the best anti-aging products. And Ben, this is a huge question.
Sure. Anti-aging is a billion-dollar business, maybe even $1 trillion business around the world. People are buying skincare products, they're advertising skincare products, they're learning about skincare products. With the internet now, information has exploded about skincare, but how do you really make a buying decision? That's a very important, that's an important consideration.
There's a lot to shuffle through. I mean, I'm constantly looking at advertisements and marketing and skincare brands, and I'm always sort of perusing how people are marketing it, what they're made of, and even me knowing what I know, I have a hard time.
Well, there's three basic ways people make decisions on skincare. Okay. Two that are silly, and one is the way that we really should be making skincare. Actually, two common ways, we'll say, I don't want to say silly, two common ways, and then there's the way we really should be making our assessment. So what's the absolute best way to tell how good your skincare product is? What does it do to your skin?
Well, it's effect, right? But then you have to give it time.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Right.
If you have to make a buying decision, you don't have the time to wait to determine whether a skincare product's going to work. You're at the store. Right. How do you know what to buy?
And cost, right? You're forking out a bunch of money. It's going to take 2 to 3 weeks.
I'm not even going to include cost in the buying decision. Yeah. To me, the best way, I'm a pharmacist, and I'm looking at, put it this way, if you go to the drugstore and get your antihypertensive or your birth control pill or your antibiotic, what's the one thing you want it to do?
You want it to work.
Hello? Yeah. So I'm a pharmacist. And when I'm formulating skincare products, I'm formulating it like a pharmacist. I'm thinking the product's got to work.
Right.
So ultimately, the best way to make a decision on a skincare product is, does it work? Does it create a change in your skin? Does your skin look different after you put the product on? Does your skin get better with time? Does your skin revert back to the condition if you stop taking the product? In other words, are you getting an effect on the skin? That's the best way. Of course, if you're at the store, you're making a buying decision, you don't have time to wait. So you can't really use that as a criteria, but that's the best criteria. And so let me just tell you this. So how do most people make a buying decision? They're at the store, they can't wait 2 weeks, they got to make a buying decision. They do it based on what the sales lady tells them, or the salesman tells them. Or they take the product, and this is really the dumbest way to tell how good a skincare product is to put it on your skin and go, oh, that feels nice. Because when you make a buying decision based on how a product feels when you put it on, you're not feeling the product, you're not feeling your skin, you're feeling the product. Right. So that's not telling you anything about what's happening to your skin, that's telling you what the product feels like. And yet this is how most of us make our buying decisions on when we're choosing a skincare product. So you're at the store, the poorest way to make a decision is, what does the sales lady think, or what does it feel like when you put it on your skin? And this is really the criteria most of us use. Sometimes we'll go into a store with a preconceived idea because we heard a commercial, or somebody, a so-called authority, told us this on a news show or on a TV show. These are all the criteria that we use, and they're not really very effective criteria. Remember, I'm thinking like a pharmacist, I'm thinking like effect, I'm thinking like medicine. If I told you, or if you had a heart problem and you went to the drugstore and say, I want that heart medicine that the movie star told me about, or that I heard that famous person saying that they were you. That's a silly thing to do. But because the skin, even though we say the skin is the body's largest organ, it doesn't really get treated like an organ. Right. It gets treated like an afterthought. It doesn't really matter. There's this implicit idea that, I can't really do much for my skin. My skin it's not really like my heart or my liver, so I'll just take a chance. Would you take a chance with the heart medicine? Right. Would you take a chance with the liver medicine? We don't really think of skincare like medicine. I want to change that. So what I say is, the best way to tell, the most practical way to determine how effective a skincare product is, or how a skincare product will be when you're making a buying decision, is go by the ingredients. Right. You want to understand the ingredient deck. And this isn't, by the way, is not just true about skincare, it's also true about food. Like when you go to the store, you really ideally don't even want an ingredient deck. There's no ingredient deck on your bananas. There's no ingredient deck on peppers or on tomatoes. There's no ingredient deck on shrimp or fish or on your meat. On the good food, there's no ingredient deck. But if you have a processed food and you have an ingredient deck, you want to understand the ingredient deck when you're determining what to eat. Food, skincare should be the same way.
Well, and it's not that complicated. And I think this is it can get complicated.
The basics aren't complicated.
The basics aren't complicated. And I think it's great if you could, break this down into something that is easy to understand, or that the average kind of layperson can look at this and not have to break out their, like, I have this ingredient book,
dictionary.
A dictionary at home, and I pull it out, right?
But you don't necessarily need that. Ingredient decks are written where the highest concentration, or the most densest concentration is at the top.
Right.
So the first ingredient is going to have you're going to have the most of it. Most skincare products are formulated with a template, a standard. So the way we make, and when I say skincare products, I'm talking about creams and lotions.
Right.
I'm not including cleansers or toners. I'm basically talking creams and lotions. Creams and lotions are pretty much the standard type of delivery system for skincare product. And creams and lotions are formulation or structure of a cream and lotion is really based on a template that was created in the modern sense in the late 1800s. Really, since Galen, the Greek physician Galen, maybe in the year 300, the year 200, he was a Greek physician who came up with the idea, they still call it Galen's emulsion, which is almond oil and beeswax and borax and rose water, and that was really the first cream. So the cream you use today was really invented by Galen in the year 300, which is kind of silly right there, that we're still using a technology from the Dark Ages,
right,
when we know so much more about biology and chemistry in the skin than Galen could ever dream of. But from a modern sense, the modern skincare product, cream and lotion, was developed in the late 1800s, okay, the late 19th century, and it involves a wax, water, emulsifier, something that makes the skin feel good, like an oil. Today we use silicone, maybe glycerin. This is the bulk of most skincare products. 80 to 90%, if you factor in the water, even up to 95% of a skincare product is going to contain these ingredients, and you'll see them at the top of the ingredient deck.
Right.
So you'll see the first ingredient on the ingredient deck, the first ingredient on the deck is going to be water.
Right.
Okay? 60, 70, 80% right there. The next ingredient is going to be maybe glycerin, maybe propylene glycol, maybe silicone. Then you'll see something like cetyl alcohol or stearyl alcohol or glycerol monostearate. Now, I don't expect people to remember these names, but understand that none of these do anything for your skin.
Right.
They're just there to construct a shell within which some active ingredient is going to go in. This is a fraudulent way of presenting what is really an important subject, and that is caring for the skin.
Right.
To me, skincare should be about health, not about beauty. Beauty
Yes.
follows health.
Right.
Beauty is an epiphenomenon. In other words, it comes out of health. For us to concentrate on beauty first is to put the cart ahead of the horse.
I just got to stop because that is such a fantastic statement.
Yeah.
I firmly believe this, and I think we've so got it backwards because of marketing, because of societal pressures.
No. Let me tell you why we got it backwards.
What?
We got it backwards because until very recently, we didn't know what the skin was.
Yeah.
Until very recently, we didn't even know that you could topically change the skin. This was only the last 20 years. I'm telling you, you weren't even, you remember what you had for lunch 20 years ago, right? I mean 20 years is not a long time. It's a real blip. In the world of consumer products, skincare is a very, very, it's based on a very old technology, and our understandings of it are very recent. So the fact that we're still using products that were formulated basically in the 1890s in the year 2010 is the reason why skincare products don't have the same kind of effect they're supposed to have. It's the reason why we don't address the skin as an organ, because we really didn't know we could do anything. Yeah. So we thought that, okay, all I can really do is rub something on the surface, and then when you touch it, it'll feel really nice. It's only been since maybe 1990, the late 1980s, that we understood that there were things inside the skin that we could actually manipulate in order to make the skin not beautiful, but healthy. And then the beauty would follow. Now, to understand really what I'm talking about and how you make the skin healthy, we really got to deconstruct the skin. This is the biggest problem, I believe, that we have as skincare consumers. Not so much professionals, because professionals get taught this, but even sometimes professionals don't understand what this thing is. So you're a professional, but I sometimes wonder, even you maybe, what does a layperson think when they look at the skin? Does this really look like an organ, Suzanne?
Yeah.
It doesn't really. An organ is blobby, it's gooey, it's dynamic, it's moving, it's nothing you want to see, right? You don't want to see your heart. You don't want to see anybody's heart. If somebody was lying there with their chest cut open and you look at the heart, you wouldn't want to look at it, right? Because there's something about an organ that has the life force in it, and it's really kind of intimidating, right? If you ever God forbid, had a tear in your body, and you could see it in the flesh underneath, you would not want to see it, right? Because there's something about organs that the skin doesn't look like. This doesn't look like an organ. So we have to use our intelligence, our intuition, our imagination, and we've got to zoom in. And when we do this, what we'll see is that the skin is like baklava. It's made up like layers. And every layer is relevant. And underneath, under many, many layers, like 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 layers, is really where the good stuff is. But it doesn't look like that. We don't see that the good stuff is located with a depth. It has a depth underneath. And when I say good stuff, I mean the cells.
Yes.
We don't ever make this distinction. Doctors don't tell us about this distinction. We don't learn about this distinction in commercials and in marketing, but it's a very important distinction to make if you're going to understand nutrition, if you're going to understand medicine, if you're going to understand health, and if you're going to understand beauty. And that is the distinction between cells and stuff. Okay? It's a very important distinction. I like it. I always do this in my talks. I always say, the body's built like raisin bread. And what do I mean by that? I think I've told you this before.
Raisin bread.
Right?
Yeah, you used this analogy before,
okay,
the raisin bread analogy.
Right, the raisin, it's a little goofy.
Yeah, but it's
relevant.
It's
relevant.
important. Yeah.
So what are the two components of raisin bread?
Raisins and bread.
Raisins and bread.
Or whatever.
No, raisins and bread, right?
Yeah.
So the body's like this too, but there's no raisins and bread. The body's made up of cells and stuff.
Right.
Now, technically, the stuff is called extracellular matrix. Okay? We're going to call it stuff or bread.
Right.
When we are unhealthy in any way, whether it's unhealthy at the level of the bones and we have osteoporosis, the level of the heart and we have heart disease, or the level of the skin and we have wrinkles, we have a cell problem, not a stuff problem. And until recently, with the skin, the only thing we could ever do is work on the stuff and not the cell.
Right.
The revolution that I'm trying to create in skincare is about addressing the cell, which is making the stuff. Key is to understand that the cells make the stuff. It's with our raisin bread analogy, imagine that you have magical raisins. I take some raisins and put them on my table over there. I go off and do my business and come back. There's bread coming out of my raisins. My raisins are making the bread. This is an amazing miracle. This is the miracle of the body. So to create an anti-aging skincare product that works, or to make a selection on an anti-aging product that's going to have a working or have an effect on the skin, you have to understand what it takes to make this, to stimulate the cells to make the stuff. Now, as it turns out, and this is not just true about the skin, everything we're talking here about the skin is true about the bones, it's true about the liver, it's true about the heart, it's true about the brain, it's true about everything. This is a fundamental rule of health, and what we're doing here is we're taking the skin and putting it where it belongs, which is in the realm of health, not the realm of beauty. Nobody cares if their heart's beautiful. Nobody cares if their liver's beautiful. They care if their heart's healthy, and they care if their liver's healthy. What we want to do is we want to take that same appreciation and understanding of the relevance of health to the internal viscera, the internal organs, and apply it to the skin. To get the heart healthy, to get the bones healthy, to get the liver healthy, the spleen, the intestine, whatever, you have to work at the level of the cell, likewise with the skin. And it turns out that the cell is constantly reading the environment it's in. This is so cool. This is so amazing. The cell is sensitive to what is around it. The cell is in a soup. It's a microscopic soup, and it doesn't look like it's much, but it's swimming in a soup. And that soup contains nutrients, that soup contains information molecules that talk to the cell, and that soup contains toxicity. Things that are emanating out of the cell, waste products are emanating out of the cell, drugs that we're taking, preservatives in foods, preservatives in skincare products if you're talking about the skin. So what we want to do is we want to create a healthy environment for the cell. See, the cell is reading basically for one of two things. Should I grow or should I go to sleep and ultimately die? Those are the only two decisions the cell is making. It says it's intelligent, and by intelligent I mean it's reading the environment, it's interpreting the environment, and it's using the environment to inform it whether it should grow, secrete molecules, do its business, or whether it should go to sleep and die, ultimately die. Now, what do you think is the beauty side? Is it the side I want to grow, I want to make molecules, or is it the side I want to go to sleep?
Yeah, you want to.
Clearly,
yeah.
The beauty molecule is the same, or the beauty status is the same as the health status. We have to tell the cell, we have to communicate to the cell that it's time to grow, that there's abundant resources, that whatever molecules we put next to that cell, tell the cell, turn on, don't go to sleep. And it turns out that there are certain molecules that do that. Most importantly, we're talking about skin, but inside the body, it's things like what we call vitamins, what we call hormones, what we call oxygen, things like that we all know are good for us. The reason they're good for us is because they're telling the cell, make muscle, make bone, make liver enzymes, make digestive juices. So what we call nutrients, and all the things that are good for us because they're telling the cell to do things. The skin's the same way.
Right.
The skin is the same way. If you want to have beautiful skin, from a topical perspective, you got to figure out how to communicate to the cell, which is located deep, layers deep. We got to communicate to the cell, it's okay to grow. It's time to grow. Let's make collagen. Let's make moisture factors. Let's divide. Let's make elastin. Let's make high hyaluronic acid. Let's make all the good stuff that will plump the skin, that will take out the wrinkles, that will make the skin moist, that will make the barrier robust, that will make the skin thick and strong and youthful. So it turns out that there's not a lot of ingredients that do that. There's very few that do that.
Right.
In fact, there's basically only 2 that you can put on top of the skin, because remember, the cells are deep, so it's not enough to know what molecules the cell needs. We have to know what molecules will make it down to the cell.
I think this is the key thing, right?
It's 2 keys.
It's got to get down.
Well, there's 2 keys.
Right?
It's got to be the right molecules.
Right.
Okay. It's got to be the molecules that turn it on, and it's got to be molecules that can get there.
Right.
And there's not a lot that do that, and that's good news. Because what that means is you don't need a lot of ingredients. You don't need a lot of products. You just need a couple of ingredients and a few products that will deliver those ingredients. Well, hang on. You know.
I do know, but I want you to say it.
Okay, so there's another strategy. And this is important, and this is relevant, and it's also understandable, because we all know that it's not enough to eat right, and it's not enough to take your supplements.
Right.
There's something else you got to do if you want to be healthy. What is that? If you want your bones to be strong, you want your muscles to be strong.
You gotta exercise.
Hello,
Yeah.
We all know that, right? That's not like a leap. That's like common knowledge. You know, everybody knows they got to exercise. Likewise with the skin. What does exercise do? But exercise actually is a chemical phenomenon. We don't think of it as a chemical phenomenon. We're lifting weights. Where's the chemical? There's no chemicals. Yes, there is.
Yeah, it is.
You're making juices.
Yeah.
As you're lifting weights, you're tearing your muscles. Juices, literally juices, this is actually hormones and enzymes and acids, are being sent to the muscle cells that turn it on. So by putting a stress on the system when you're lifting weights, you're creating a chemical milieu that tells the cell it has to grow. The signaling molecules around it support that. What we call the vitamins, the nutrients, all the good stuff, that supports that, but you need to turn it on.
Yeah.
You turn it on with a stressor. And likewise with the skin. See how we're taking everything that we know is true about the inside of the body and we're applying it to the skin. So nutrients and signaling molecules are true for your liver, are important for your liver and your digestive system, your intestine, and everything else inside the body. Likewise for the skin. Stimulation is important for the inside of the body. It's important for the connective tissue and the muscle tissue. It's also important for the skin. So in addition to putting nutrients, signaling molecules into the skin topically, telling the skin cells, it's okay to make collagen, you got to make high hyaluronic acid, etc. You also want to have some kind of stimulus, some kind of exercise between the molecules that signal and sustain and feed and nourish all the chemistry that we want, that tells the cell it's okay to grow, and a stressor. You have all the ingredients you need for beautiful skin. It's only 3 ingredients. And delivery systems. Now, what are they, right? Well, it turns out that there's lots of nutrients that are important for cells, okay? But for the skin, there are 2 ingredients, nutrients, that are uniquely able, when formulated correctly, they're uniquely able to penetrate through the surface of the skin. Now, it doesn't look like this, but you got a fingernail in your skin. You got a thin layer of fingernail on the surface of the skin. That thin layer of fingernail creates a barrier to getting down to where we need to be. Figuring out how to bypass that fingernail-like barrier on the surface of the skin is the focus of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pages of research in pharmaceutical companies and pharmacological companies and research departments and universities, and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars are spent every year on trying to figure out how to get stuff through there, because for a drug company, the skin represents a route of administration into the blood.
Right.
So in pharmacy school, we spent a lot of time studying how can we get through this fingernail on the surface of the skin. And while in pharmacy school, the focus is on getting drugs into the blood, there's a relevance for skincare. because perhaps you don't want to get all the way into the blood, but you do want to get relatively deep. Remember, these raisins are located deep in the baklava.
Right.
They're underneath. They're pretty deep, relatively speaking, even though it doesn't look like this. You know, your whole skin is maybe 10 pieces of notebook paper thick. That's including the whole thing. The fingernail-like thing I'm talking about at the surface, that's
It's
like
very thin.
1/10.
So how do we get beneath that?
Well,
Because we're gonna, gotta wrap.
Oh, we're right around.
Yeah, you gotta wrap.
Okay. So we want to figure out how to get through to that surface. By the way, the surface, the fingernail, I'm calling a fingernail, is called the stratum corneum.
Right.
So we want to get through the stratum corneum. The stratum corneum is fatty. In chemistry, we have a saying: like dissolves like, and oil and water don't mix.
Right.
The skin has the fingernail-like barrier, the stratum corneum has a fatty nature to it. Oil and water don't mix. Fat and water don't mix. So you got to figure out how to get a molecule that's fatty. That's the most important thing. The second criteria is to get through this fingernail-like material, the molecule has to be friendly. It has to be recognized. The skin's not stupid. The body's not stupid. It's not going to take in things it doesn't recognize. You got to really force it to. And then third of all, you have to have enough of it. There's a phenomena in chemistry where things go from where there's a lot to where there's a little. There's a pushing effect. There's like a weight effect. So you got to put a lot of stuff on to drive it underneath. And those are the three factors that we learn in pharmacy school and relevant for cosmetics for getting active material through the skin surface. It has to be fatty, it has to be friendly, and it has to have enough of it. That's actually called Fick's law. It's actually a physics law. So I say friendly, fatty, and Fick's. Those are the three elements that are required for transdermal penetration. It turns out there's
Only two
molecules.
And these are the things that people need to pay attention to when they're shopping.
These
to
are
get back to the subject.
Yes, these are the
best
only
anti-aging
two
products.
Yes,
How do they know?
These are the only two molecules that, when formulated correctly, will bypass that stratum corneum and not just get underneath. This is so cool because these two molecules don't merely act as information transmitting molecules. Hey, cell, it's okay to go.
Right.
It's okay to grow. It's okay to divide. It's okay to make collagen. It's okay to make moisture factors. These two ingredients that everybody should be looking for and everybody should be using on a regular basis, we'll say, are not only information molecules for the outside of the cell. Remember, the cell's reading the environment, right? They go into the cell and they go into the genetics and they change the genes. And they work at the genetic level. You can actually, with these two ingredients, this is pretty freaking important.
Okay.
There are two ingredients. They're over the counter. You can buy them from True Skin Health. You can buy them if you know what you're doing. You can buy them in any. You can get them in any product. They go into the genes. You can manipulate your genes topically. That's amazing. They're vitamin C and they're vitamin A.
Yeah.
Vitamin A is unbelievably important for signaling to turn on the cell, and also for genetics. It comes in different forms. The true vitamin A is called retinol. Okay, that's true vitamin A. But it has to be activated in order to have its effect. Activated vitamin A is called retinoic acid. That's a tweaked version. Should
it say that in the deck? No, I don't think it says that.
No, hang on. How are we okay? Do you have to do it? Okay, so you're on top of it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so here's the deal.
Okay.
Retinoic acid is the active form of vitamin A, and it is unbelievably effective.
Okay.
It's in pharmacy school. We consider it the gold standard of active ingredients for the skin. It's so active that it's the only FDA approved, not just preventing wrinkles, reversing them once they happen, reversing them. This is so for people who are worried about, is my skin going to permanently have wrinkles? With retinoic acid, according to the FDA, you now have a tool that you can reverse wrinkles with. Now, the problem with retinoic acid is it's a prescription. In the body, non-prescription, active, real true vitamin A can be turned into active vitamin A. So non-prescription vitamin A can be turned into active vitamin A by enzymes in your skin. So
good.
Isn't that good?
Automatically,
exactly. So you can get true vitamin. You can get true vitamin A over the counter. Put on your skin. Your skin's enzymes will turn it into the activated form. You can buy retinol over the counter. Your skin's enzymes will turn it into retinoic acid.
That's wonderful.
But here's the thing. You got to see. There's little tricks here. Retinol, because it has to be turned into retinoic acid, is 100 times weaker than retinoic acid. So you need huge doses of it. So, for example, retinoic acid, which is activated vitamin A, right? It's been tweaked a little bit by enzymes in your skin, is active at 0.01% concentration. and 0.05% concentration. So if you go to the drug, there's also 0.1 concentration. But because retinol is 100 times weaker than retinoic acid, you need to factor in, you got to do the math. You understand what I'm saying? There's 100 times. So if you need a 0.01% retinoic acid and you want to get it from retinol, you got to have 100 times that.
So you're saying that when people are reading the deck, when they're shopping for anti-aging ingredients, they need to look at the quantities.
The concentration.
The concentration of the
You
vitamin
better
A.
believe it. That's a dirty trick that people make in the skincare
So they'll
business.
say it's in there.
It's in there.
But it's in there. It's such a low dose that
What's
it's not
our
going to
three
have
factors? What's our three factors? Friendly, fatty, and FUCHS law. You have to have enough of it.
The
three Fs. You have to have enough of it.
Right.
There's nasty games that skincare companies play.
So what percentage are they looking
Retinol, you need, in my opinion, 1%.
Minimum
of 1%. Now, you can get a bump up top of yourself off effect with like a 0.01 or 0.05%, but if you really want to have the effects, you need a 1%. We have a 5%.
Right.
When I formulate products, I am really conscious about FUCHS law, about dosages. Same with vitamin C.
Right. Now, let's go into vitamin C, and then we're going to close out because we've got to end it. But I do want to hear about the quantities of vitamin C.
Here's the thing on vitamin C. Vitamin C retinol is already fat soluble, so we don't have to do anything with retinol. Vitamin C is not fat soluble. Remember our three Fs. Got fatty, you've got FUCHS law, and you got friendly. They're both friendly. They're both in there. The skin knows what to do with vitamin C and vitamin A, so we don't have to worry about friendly. FUCHS law, you got to have enough of it. With retinol, you need 1% to 5%, somewhere in there. With vitamin C, you need 20%, 30%, 40%. We have almost 80%, okay? But the big problem with vitamin C is water soluble. It doesn't go through this fingernail. You remember, oil and water don't mix.
So you have to mix it with like fatty...
Yeah, let me see if I can do this right here. Can I do a little prop?
A little prop.
Water, right? What happens here?
It just pours right off.
It comes right off of me, right? That's my vitamin C sitting right there. That's the vitamin C. If you buy water-soluble vitamin C, which is called ascorbic acid, it's right there, okay? So remember, the three Fs. So we need to be fatty. So when you're choosing a vitamin C product, you want to look for fatty vitamin C.
Now, will it say that
It
in
will
the deck?
not say that.
What will it say?
Unfortunately, it will say ascorbyl tetraisopalmitate. or
but it's an important
tetrahexyldecylascorbate.
Wow.
It might say that.
So those are two words.
Yes,
but,
it will say that, you know, and you have to do that. So, know your company.
Yeah.
Buy the truth. If you get the truth and you like all of these ideas that we're talking about, I use all of these ideas in how I formulate. Right. Okay? And they're steeped in science, they're steeped in pharmacy, and they're steeped in 35 years of clinical hands-on experience of people actually using the products, and it works. So with vitamin C, you want to look for the fatty form. Now there's another fatty form that's good, and that's called ascorbyl palmitate. Those are basically the only two fatty forms of vitamin C. What you don't want, I don't care, there's companies that will tell you, they'll do all kinds of song and dances about this, but it's like, just pour water on your arm and you can see. What you don't want is ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid, if you really did want ascorbic acid, just buy the powder. It's dirt cheap at the vitamin store. Make your own ascorbic acid. But it's really crazy. Now, what ascorbic acid will do is it is an acid, and it will exfoliate. So if you want to make a toner or something, or use it as a toner, but the problem is it's just you're missing an opportunity to use vitamin C, and the products are so darn expensive. Yeah. And even worse, watery vitamin C oxidizes. H2O.
Right.
What's H2O? What's the O in H2O? It's oxygen, right? Vitamin C is very sensitive to oxygen. So when vitamin C is put in H2O, it oxidizes. The oxygen reacts with the vitamin C and it turns brown. Right. It creates an oxidized form of vitamin C. So you don't get the same vitamin C benefits. So look for fatty vitamin C. Look for it in very high concentrations. You want the companies to tell you. We have almost 80% in ours, and some of our other products have 40%, 50%. I use really high concentrations, ridiculously high concentrations. And then with retinol, look for 1 to 5%. Now, as far as stimulation goes, let me just talk about this real quickly. There's lots of ways to stimulate this. Do I have time?
Yeah, we're still out of time.
we're like way off.
We're like way
it doesn't
off.
matter.
Okay. Can you do
Okay. Yep. So I'll just say this real quick. There's lots of ways to stimulate the skin. You can stimulate with shooting little crystals at the skin, microdermabrasion. Right. You can just stimulate with laser. You can stimulate it with pumice. You can stimulate with enzymes. You can stimulate with a lot of things. But the best way to stimulate the skin is to drop the pH. When you drop pH, When you drop the pH of the skin, pH is a measurement of hydrogen. I don't want to get into too much chemistry, but hydrogen is a major, major signaling factor. Hydrogen represents acid. Whenever you hear about acid, you're talking about hydrogen. And hydrogen tells a cell, let's get going. A low pH has a lot of free hydrogen. And so the lower the pH, the more stimulus you have. Now you can get too low with pH and create a burn. That's too much stimulus. So there's a sweet spot in dropping the pH.
Yeah, and you can drop the pH in your skin too through diet and through...
Well,
right. A lot. I mean, we're talking topically,
you're
but
talking
I'm just
in a healthy
saying,
way.
In a healthy
well,
way.
okay. So let's.
Yeah.
If you
I mean,
want to go there,
well, no.
You
We
keep
don't
opening
really
these
take
cans of worms up here.
I'm sorry. Okay, so let's go back
Okay.
to the beginning here to close this out because there's so much great information. I mean, okay. So can you do it really quick?
Real quick.
Yeah.
So acid in the skin's good. Acid inside the body's not. Okay.
Right.
Why is that? Because acid represents movement,
right.
dynamism.
Right.
Inside the body, you want a vacuum.
Yeah.
You don't want to think of a spout or a fountain and think of a vacuum.
Right.
Right. One is a push.
Right.
Fountain is a push. Hose is a push. A vacuum is what? A pull. Right. Those are voltages. A push is a positive voltage.
Right.
A pull is a negative voltage. Negative voltage is alkaline. When you're alkaline in the blood, you're pulling energy out of food. When you're not alkaline in the blood, you're pushing energy away from food, and that way you don't get nutriated. Follow what I'm saying? So inside you want to be pulling. You want negative voltage in the blood.
So it's different. It's going to be a different...
Correct.
Right.
On the skin, if you want to make more acid on the skin, fatty acids.
Right.
The acid is a function of fatty acids. So making sure that your fats are correct. And this is the most important thing for the skin. More important than anything we're talking about here, is making sure you're ingesting good fats. And by good fats, I'm talking about essential fatty acids, and I'm talking about fatty vitamins mostly, and also fatty nutrients from vegetables and fruits, and then absorbing them. Yeah. And as women get older, this becomes a big problem.
It does.
And this is one of the most important reasons for women's problems with hyperpigmentation when they get older. This is associated with women's dry skin when they get older, women's thinning skin when they get older, and guess what? Also, women's gallbladder and liver issues.
Yes, absolutely.
When they get older.
It gets worse. It gets harder as you get older. I absolutely agree with that.
So if for a woman, to me, if I'm counseling a woman, I'm saying, and every men too, but especially women because they're so dependent on fats, focus on fat absorption, fatty enzymes, apple cider vinegar with meals, aloe with your meals, digestive enzymes, anything that helps you make bile, Swedish bitters, arugula at the beginning of your meals, or radish at the beginning of your meals. There's so many wonderful strategies that you can use to leverage the power of fats. And by fats, I mean essential fatty acids, both omega-6 and omega-3. There's a lot of misunderstanding about that. Fatty vitamins. And guess what? One of the best ways to get your fatty vitamins is from the sun. You know, you want to make your skin able to handle the sun. The sun is an important health tool and anti-aging tool and a hormone modulator, and you want to be in the sun. But you want your skin to be able to handle the sun. Right. And you got to know how to do it, and it's a bit of an art form. To simplistically say, oh, I'm staying out of the sun, deprives yourself of a very powerful vitamin.
So many people are depleted in vitamin D, and it comes
very
out of their
big
skin
problem.
and their general health, depression. I mean, it's huge.
Vitamin D is ridiculously
It's ridiculously.
Yes,
and so many people, especially women, older women, I find, really are depleted in that.
Yes,
so,
vitamin D and vitamin A are two they go together. You know, vitamin A and D ointment? You've heard of that, right? They go together. So vitamin A and D are the only two vitamins that are also hormones. Now, I'm not going to tell you the difference between a hormone and vitamin because we're out of time.
We're out of time.
But there's a big difference between
we
hormone
will talk about that. But in our next show, we're going to talk about, now that how do I improve my skin over 50? So we are going to get more into the aging thing in the next video, which I will put out.
Did we cover everything?
We will, we have more than covered everything. So thank you so much for all of your wisdom. I love it. I'm always like scribbling down notes whenever Ben and I talk. I always learn a lot. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you.
Ladies, please, or people, who's ever watching this, please put any questions you might have down below. Ben always answers them, or I answer them. So this has been super fascinating, and thank you so much for watching The Beauty Shaman.